What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with some more news. Join us now as we look at the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including Vince thought a WWF superstar was too dangerous, Mania being pushed back, Charlotte Flair goes off on a rant, backstage heat on an outspoken WWE superstar, one superstar wants to come out of retirement, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Now let's hit the intro and get straight into the first story. Now our first story is that Vince thought a WWF superstar was too dangerous. Jim Ross recently discussed a situation from the Attitude Era where Vince McMahon decided to take a superstar out of the ring. Good old JR recalled what happened during an episode of his Grillin' JR podcast when wrestlers started complaining about Taz. People thought his suplexes were dangerous, all this other stuff. A lot of the talents go back to Vince and say, I don't really want to work with this guy, he's dangerous. So they'd tell me that, but they'd tell Vince that. Vince McMahon, heard it enough and he saw that a lot of top talents were uncomfortable in stepping in the ring with Taz. He finally took it to heart. As fans know, a wrestler is literally placing his well-being into his opponent's hands when they compete, and one poorly executed move can result in a serious injury, sometimes enough to end a wrestler's career. As JR noted, if a number of top talents are complaining, a wrestler who is lower on the roster will suffer some type of consequences. Another example is Mr. Kennedy, who received complaints about his ability to work safe from John Cena and Randy Orton, reportedly leading to Kennedy's exit from the WWE. However, in Kennedy's case, he claims that there may have been some political motives to the complaint, something which can never be ruled out in professional wrestling, where some wrestlers look to stop the pushes of rising stars, thinking this will keep themselves at the top. Although Vince pulled Taz from the ring, he found a role for him as a color commentator, a spot Taz excelled at, going in to provide color commentary in TNA after his 2009 exit from the WWE and more recently in AEW. Next up, WrestleMania 37 being pushed back? Potentially huge news considering WrestleMania 37, as WrestleVotes is reporting that this year's showcase of the Immortals could be pushed back. He noted earlier there has been internal discussions about moving the scheduled date of WrestleMania from the 28th March to 11th April or even 18th April. The goal remains to have fans in attendance for the event. That thought process of moving back the show a few weeks only helps that out. He retweeted this and said, "Looks to be happening, which is good." It seems like the WWE sees holding its show of shows in front of a large live audience is imperative. It would not only provide some much needed cash flow, but be seen as the beginning of the road back to regular live events. Next up, Charlotte Flair's fury. Charlotte Flair is none too happy with some recent comments. The 12-time women's champion went off on a Twitter tirade after Daily DDT's Max Everett tweeted a link to an article asking if someone as talented as Charlotte Flair deserves all the hate she gets. The Queen tweeted back, "I should just scroll block this garbage, but words matter, so I'll take a few moments to educate you since both a human and I would assume an editor allowed this bullshit to sully Al Gore's internet. I have taken time off 3 times while on the main roster. First time was when my dad was sick, second time was a 6-week injury that was followed up by 18 months of staring at lights to help create a star, third time is now. What exactly is it that I'm avoiding? I keep looking for the article where you trash one of the male champions for taking time off and being inserted back into the title picture. It didn't find one. Shocking. I'm in the title picture and I will always be in the title picture. It's one of those unfortunate side effects of excelling at something. You wouldn't understand." It goes without saying that Charlotte has enjoyed a strong push since her main roster debut, but there's no denying her talent. At the same time, there is substance to the argument that the WWE pushes her so hard that it doesn't allow the other talent to get their time in the spotlight and conceivably get over as another upper card or main event act. For example, Flair's time in NXT in 2020 surprised some fans who saw Flair win the NXT Women's Championship from Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania 36. For some fans, Flair didn't seem to put anyone over or elevate them during her time on the black and gold brand, including a loss to Io Shirai which occurred in a triple threat match where Flair was not pinned. Do you think Charlotte Flair gets pushed too much? Let us know in the comments down below. Next up, a new weekly WWE television show coming, and more details concerning the WWE's new television show in India. As reported earlier, the WWE is launching a new international NXT division this time in India. The WWE is holding Superstar Spectacle, a super show in India on 26 January. According to this week's Wrestling Observer, the local advertising was built around Jinder Mahal, Kavita Devi, a woman weightlifter who is training in NXT, Saurav Gajjar, Rinku Singh, Sunil Singh and Samir Singh. Also advertised Bethesda, Drew McIntyre, Rey Mysterio, Charlotte Flair, AJ Styles, Bayley, The New Day, Shinsuke Nakamura, Cesaro, Dolph Ziggler, Robert Roode, Ricochet, Ric Flair, and Indian wrestlers from the Performance Center. The show is being taped in the PC, which makes it easy for the WWE to bring in various main roster superstars, but it does raise the risk of COVID infection since wrestlers from various brands are interacting. Meltzer also discussed the WWE's pending NXT show in India. The plan is to eventually produce a weekly television show for India based around using the Indian wrestlers they've signed, similar to NXT UK, except while NXT UK doesn't bring in any serious money, the idea is this will, since India is number 2 behind the US as far as how much money they already pay for WWE television rights. With no live events, TV is where most of the money is, so it makes sense for the WWE to continue landing television deals, especially in huge international markets like India. Given that the WWE still has a huge roster, the company has the option to sending talent to its international brands either for special appearances or longer runs. This should be easy to do, as rumor has it the WWE's NXT India show will be taped at the PC for the time being. At some point, they plan on having a performance center in India, but the pandemic has set this back. Next up, a backstage heat on an outspoken WWE wrestler. Speaking of raging wrestlers, Mustafa Ali hasn't been shy expressing his views on the WWE, such as when he appeared on Raw Talk and blasted the WWE for giving legends television time instead of wrestlers like Retribution. While there should be no doubt that some of Ali's comments are part of his character of a disgruntled wrestler seeking revenge on the WWE, rumor has it that Ali may have backstage heat for his criticism of the WWE piping in cheers and boos in the Thunderdome. According to Fightful Select's Sean Ross Sapp, I heard that there was someone who took exception to him making light that they pipe in stuff. I asked about this. I was like, what would anyone be mad at? And they're like, well, he said that they piped in noise. I said they do. And this person said, yeah, but we don't want them going out there and saying that. I'm like, why not? It's obvious. It's okay, baseball does it, football does it, basketball does it. Don't treat us like we're stupid. However, Ali's complaint about piping in crowd reactions isn't limited to him. According to The Observer, the ability to completely control reactions has led to frustration in some of the underneath talent because they realize the company creates the sound based on who they want to push and who they don't. And then you have to face the fact that you're not on the list of the people they want to push, and whatever you do, you can't get the reaction from the fans to change that. This complaint seems valid as the WWE could be holding back talent by minimizing the crowd reaction to certain superstars. What do you guys think of Ali's complaints, and do you think that the WWE is working fans, or could there be a legitimate heat on Retribution's leader? And finally, a WWE superstar is contemplating coming out of retirement. And last but not least, wrestlers often find that staying retired from the ring is a difficult challenge as they can't resist the allure of competing. Not too long ago, Sarah Logan, formerly of the Riot Squad in WWE, announced her retirement after the WWE released her. Logan, who is expecting her first child with husband Eric, spoke with Vicky Guerrero on her Excuse Me podcast, revealing her possible plans to return to the ring. If I'm able to fangle a way to comfortably have my kid on the road, I don't see why I wouldn't come back full time. Me and Eric rent an RV and drive to each town, and Cash is with us, but I have a farm. My mom can only take care of it so much, so part of me is like, I'll come back part-time. With WWE, you don't really get to pick how you come back. I will come back to wrestling in some capacity, I'm sure of it. It's pretty much all I'm really qualified to do. Logan is only 27, so she has time to plan out any return. Once the pandemic is over, she should have no problem finding work on the indie circuit, a situation which conceivably would allow her to work around her schedule. Would you guys like to see Sarah Logan return to wrestling? Let us know in the comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Facebook for exclusive lists, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.